Hey everyone, it's Mr. Ryan. Gonna read to you chapter 23 from Bat and the Waiting Game. The title of this chapter is called Company. I do want to share with you that when I was an elementary student, I used to be very, very afraid to read out loud in front of my classmates because I never felt like I was very good at it. And even as an adult, sometimes I feel that way. But I'm gonna be brave and I'm gonna give it my best shot. Here we go. Chapter 23, Company. Bat found that he didn't have much of an appetite either, so after he'd pushed his eggs around the plate for a while, Mom drove him to school. It turned out that everyone there had heard about what happened at the play. From the moment Bat got out of the car, questions followed him. Bat, did you really take your skunk to the play? Bat, is it true that the auditorium has to be shut down for a whole week? Bat, can you really train a skunk to spray on purpose? Everybody calm down, Mr. Grayson said from the front of the class. Bat wished he could disappear. He wished he didn't have skin for people to look at or ears for people to talk to. Mr. Grayson must have assigned something for the class to do because all around the room kids were rifling through their desks and flipping open books. Bat, Mr. Grayson said, kneeling beside Bat's desk, what can I do to help you? Bat shook his head. He didn't have any words. He shook his head more and he shook it harder and harder and just kept shaking it. Bat, said Mr. Grayson. But Bat shook his head. On and on, like a pendulum of a clock, back and forth, left and right, left and right. Mr. Grayson stayed right there, kneeling next to Bat's desk, his hand on Bat's shoulder. Finally, Bat felt better. His throat felt normal again, and it didn't bother him so much that he had skin and ears. Mr. Grayson squeezed his shoulder one more time, then stood up. I think, he said to Bat, that Baby Cakes could use some cuddles. And you are the man? Are you the man for the job? There in her enclosure was Baby Cakes, ears flopping, nose twitching. Bat sat cross-legged and held out one of the apple slices Mr. Grayson had given him. He had watched Mr. Grayson take the apple out of his own lunch sack, which he kept in his orange satchel next to his big desk in the front of the room, and cut it up with a pocket knife. Baby Cakes hopped over to Bat and sniffed the apple slice before accepting it. Once he was happily chewing, Bat lifted her up and tucked her into the space between his crossed legs. Behind him, class went on. They were talking about a book they'd been reading about a girl with magical powers that allowed her to pause time and fix past mistakes, which at the moment sounded wonderful to Bat, even though he had read that book too, and knew that every time the girl fixed one mistake, 3 more popped up in its place. Bat wondered if new, different mistakes would be better than the mistakes he had made. Taking Thor to the play, ruining Janie's big night, and not knowing how to be a better friend to Israel, maybe not being his friend anymore at all. Do you want some company? Bat looked up. It was Israel. I have company, Bat said, petting Baby Cakes. Israel sighed. I know, he said. I meant human company. Oh, said Bat. Yes, actually, I would like your company. This made Israel smile. He climbed into the enclosure and sat down next to Bat. He leaned over and scratched Baby Cakes between the ears, just the way she liked. They sat quietly after a while. Then Bat said all at once, Are you still mad at me? A little, said Israel. Not really. If you're still mad at me, Bat asked, even a little, then why are you being my company? Because, said Israel, you're my best friend, right? Bat's eyes began to sting like little needle pricks, Yes, he said, but he looked down at Baby Cake's fluffy Angora fur and her sideways ears, not up at Israel. Best friends need to stick together, Israel said. He reached over and pet Baby Cakes, his fingers disappearing into her soft white fur. Then he said, Bat, I have an idea for you, for how you can apologize to Janie. Up next, Chapter 24.